Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. So just to let you know, we are streaming directly to LinkedIn. So if you prefer to get, hi Hillary, if you prefer to have a camera off, it's fine. So, well, all of you know me. So Susanna from Beacon Business Commercial Services. We are business consultants and we help small business owners to grow or to achieve their goals. So Andrew Walker is on the background. He's our Zoom editor and he will be taking your questions as well. So this is our third session of the collaboration series. Let's grow and future-proof your business together. The objective of the collaboration series is to bring together business owners so that they can share their expertise and they address some of the challenges that we as business owners have. You can ask all your questions either through the chat or wait until the end and raise your hand. Cash flow management is one of the top reasons why small businesses fail. Cash flow is what it pays the suppliers, overhead, and salaries. And as a business owner, you can overcome being unprofitable for a while. However, having no cash in the bank, it can bring your business down. So in this session today, take control of your cash flow. I invited Patrice Butler, partner of FIFO Capital Ireland. She is a fellow Network Ireland member in Limerick. And I came across her through a podcast, That Great Business Show, in April last year. And since then, it's been ringing in my head, the topic. So welcome, Patrice.
Thank you, Susanna.
So would you like to tell a little bit about yourself and your business, please?
Yeah, thanks a million for having me on today. And so just a bit about FIFO Capital, for those of you who haven't heard of us. We support businesses' cash flow needs. We specialize in invoice financing, which for those people who may not be familiar with invoice financing, in simple terms, what it means is that we turn your unpaid sales invoices into immediate cash. So there is no need to wait your 30, 60, or even in some cases 90 days to get paid from your customers. So this enables, it's a good benefit to businesses. It's great. It enables them to grow their business, take on new opportunities and kind of take the headaches away from the timing of cash flow. And just a bit of background on myself, briefly, I won't bore you, but I'm a chartered accountant by profession. And so I have a number of years experience in both practice and in industry. So when it does, I think it is an important factor that when it comes to, speaking to business owners, that I do have an in-depth understanding of a variety of businesses. So I can actually, I can actually understand what they're saying and empathize with them in certain aspects of it as well.
Fabulous, thank you. So the objective of today, it is to address some of the issues, especially the lack of cash flow. So I was reading yesterday, there is a report from Price Waterhouse that it predicts the increase of business failure due to the removal of the government support.
Yeah.
So Patrice, what have you observed in the last 6 months of the year? Isn't that something that rings your bell?
Yeah, I suppose the government, in fairness, they did actually support a lot of businesses, through the different, the wage subsidy scheme. And then they introduced that SBCI loan scheme as well. It was very obvious though, that a lot of businesses had actually taken this on board because before the end date of it, before the expiry date of that SBCI, a lot of the financial institutions had actually used up their funding. So if you were a small business that went to apply for it, thinking, oh, well, it doesn't expire until the end of June, and you went and you applied for it, say, in April, a lot of them had actually used up that funding as it was, which, it was, I suppose it was used by businesses, which is great, but for those who missed out, they obviously didn't receive the assistance that they may have needed. So it was a bit unfortunate for those businesses. And I suppose from our perspective, the businesses that we deal with, they're strong, profitable, viable businesses. But in the last couple of months, and obviously then after COVID, we've seen businesses are struggling in terms of, there's such fluctuations in terms of prices, they have their raw material prices in some instances. You have energy prices, which are just zapping, in particular, those small businesses as well. And I think they definitely face a lot of uncertainty around cash flow. And that's where kind of FIFO Capital will come in. And in particular, like we do like to focus on small businesses because they often feel, the feedback that I get is they often feel left behind, in particular when it comes to the banks. So the main pillar banks will offer this facility that we offer, but to larger businesses. So for the larger, to get it with the bank, you'll need to have a minimum debt or book value of 250,000, or you need to be in business for more than 3 years. Whereas with FIFO Capital, we will look at the facility for smaller businesses. No invoice is too small. So for a lot of businesses out there that think, oh, but this facility wouldn't be suitable for me, I would definitely encourage you to, have a chat with us. And more than likely we will be able to facilitate your business. We are very flexible in that way. So like in terms of our, helping those smaller businesses, that do face those cash flow challenges, we're definitely there to assist anyway.
That's brilliant. So you deliver a lot of gems of pearls of wisdom in that statement. So I will kind of pick it out a little bit so that we can explain with more details.
Yeah.
So the situation in terms of the businesses that could be affected now that there is no government support, you said that it is the same for large businesses as it is for small businesses.
I do think, obviously larger businesses will have their challenges as well. But I think with smaller businesses, generally, they're less able to cope in the sense of, they can't be as diversified. And you can't expect them to be. They may have one particular area that they specialize in or one industry, whereas the larger businesses may have their, their risk is generally spread out, and they may be better able to cope with the fluctuations in what we're seeing, which is phenomenal times, like with inflation and everything. So I do think smaller businesses face more challenges in that sense. And a lot of the businesses as well that we work with, they will be in their infancy or kind of that startup stage. So they're trying to grow their business. And in order to grow their business, they do need that support behind them, that backing of some sort of a facility. And in general, what we can see is that our competitors, they do want a certain, time that you need to be in business, say 3 years before we will consider you, etc. Whereas we don't have that limitation. So again, I suppose it's a case of, speak to us. There's no business too small and no business too young, to basically get our facility,
Mm-hmm. So if I understand correctly, FIFO basically, you provide for unpaid invoices, you will give basically the cash back to the business instead of they waiting to be paid.
Yeah. So I suppose the main way, just to give you a simple example on how it would work. So just say you're a business owner, you have completed the work, everything has been done, the invoice has been sent to your customer, it has been approved for payment, but you just have to wait. If whatever your agreed payment terms are, it may be 30 days or 60 days or even 90 days. So you know that the cash is coming. It just is, you have to wait a long time to get it, basically. So what we do is we will release up to 80% of the value of that invoice on the day that you send it to us. So on the same business day that you send us that invoice, we will release 80% of the value of that. And then in your 60 days time, say when your customer pays, they will pay. And what FIFO Capital will do is release back the residual value, which is the 20% less our fee. So that's basically the way that it works in very simple terms. And another benefit, I suppose, to that is, when you have the certainty, obviously, around the timing of it. That if you've done the work, the invoice has been approved, and you send it to your customer and you CC us into that invoice, then you will get 80% or up to 80% of that value of that invoice that particular day that you send it to us. So you have that timing as well. And, you know, that's quite powerful in the sense that for you as a business owner, you know, you're trying to juggle things, you're trying to juggle the wages, the overhead, salaries, rent, you know, electricity bills, all those kind of things. And then on top of that, paying your suppliers. You know, and another thing that, you know, I'd always encourage businesses as well to, like, it's what you do with those funds, you know. So in particular, say paying suppliers, maybe if you could potentially pay your suppliers early and get a settlement discount, you know, for actually paying them early, but agree all that beforehand with your supplier. You know, it's just one of those things that you could use, rather than just saying, oh, now I've got, you know, X amount of cash in the bank, it's great. You know, use it wisely as well.
Mm-hmm. So if I think, for example, with some of the businesses that we have online now, basically I'm a new business and I suddenly won a big contract with, I don't know, they like so Super Value. And I'm very keen because it's going to be very beneficial for my business, not just as that sale, but also as a future. However, they pay at 60 days.
Yeah.
So, and I still need to continue promoting my business. I still need to continue generating marketing that costs money and so on. So in that case, it will be something that it will cover that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So which will be the minimum requirement? So if I go to you and I say, okay, I've been 1 year in business.
Yeah.
I want this contract.
Yeah.
So
so our minimum requirements, it's quite easy for businesses to meet in that sense, because you just need to be a limited company and you need to be operating as in your customer needs to be a limited company. So it's limited company to limited company, and they're the minimum requirements. And after that, you know, we obviously then, you know, we can get your application form, we can look through the process. You know, we obviously have to do our due diligence in the background. And one of the things that I always say to, you know, potential clients is that, you know, we're always very quick and efficient to give an answer. It's not going to be a slow no after 2 months, you know, of waiting. It's always going to be very, very efficient. And I suppose just the other thing as well, you know, for like one of the reasons, I suppose, one of the ways that we differentiate ourselves to our competitors is like that, you know, that we are very quick in our turnaround time. But one of the main benefits, I think, of us over our competitors is that we don't have any lock-in contracts, which I think it's a really important factor for businesses to consider. You know, I had, just to give you an example, I had one particular client come on board with us. And when I was talking to him, he was telling me that he was with one of our competitors, but that basically he wanted to come on board with us because we are quite flexible in that we can say, okay, like, we leave it up to the business owner. Do you want to, you know, use our facility for one debtor or all your debtor book? And one of the reasons actually why he came on board with us was because he only wanted to actually factor one of his debtors. But our competitor told him that he had to do his full debtor book or nothing. So it definitely suited his business then. So we tailored a package basically to suit him and his business, not what suited us, you know. So when he tried to get out of his lock-in contract, there was only about 4 months left in the contract, and he tried to get out of that, and they came back to him with a whopping €18,000 fee. It was
for leaving it 4 months before.
Yes.
Wow.
So there was obviously penalties in there and, you know, whatever, but yeah, like it absolutely floored us, to say the least, that was the penalty. You know, I mean, on any small business, that's you know, even on any large business, like, that's a phenomenal amount of money to have to pay to get out of a contract. But just to compare, if that was FIFO Capital, you know, we don't have that lock-in contract. So if you ring me and say, I don't need your facility next month, it's, you know, obviously once everything is all cleared from our end, like there's no penalty, there's no get out of contract fee, which I think is actually really, really important. And a lot of businesses, you know, they may have signed up into contracts, but they don't think about the future and trying to get out of that contract if for some reason that they need to. So I do think that that's a really important benefit of FIFO Capital over competitors. And I've obviously mentioned that, you know, we are flexible and, you know, we can tailor a package to suit the individual business needs. And I would say it again, like, there's no invoice that's too small. From my feedback from business owners, they do tend to think that, oh, invoice financing is only suitable for larger businesses. Again, I think that's a perception that people have in Ireland because of the banks that, they kind of only deal or only, offer this type of facility to the larger businesses. But it's almost like an education process that you have to go through to say, no, look, there is a facility there. It can suit you. You're not just kind of left in the shadows. Like, we are there to support the smaller businesses as well. So definitely no invoice is too small. And another point as well that we don't have is a minimum monthly fee. And just to give you another example, I was speaking to a guy. It was a business owner. It was during COVID as well. So it was a tough time anyway for him and his business. He wasn't actually raising any sales invoices, like a lot of businesses weren't during COVID. He was totally shut down. And he told me that with one of our competitors, he was paying an €800 minimum monthly fee. So his facility was that he was paying this minimum monthly fee, plus if he sent them a sales invoice, that he would have to pay a percentage on the invoice. So I suppose, like, in his mind, he thought it was unfair, I think, as well, like that he had to pay this fee, even though he wasn't even using the facility. He wasn't actually getting any benefit from the facility. In essence, it was doing the opposite to what it was meant to be doing. It was draining his cash instead of helping his cash. So like if that was FIFO Capital, you pay a percentage on the invoice. So if you send us an invoice, you pay a percentage on the invoice. And if you don't send us an invoice, then you're not charged for something that you're not actually using. So if you use it, you pay. If you don't use it, you're not getting I suppose sent any unwanted fees for something that you're not actually using as well.
So you said that the minimum requirement is just being limited company. So obviously we are talking about that there has to be we are talking about a certain level of invoicing them, because it will be normally, and this is what I understand, if I am sole trader or not limited, it means that my turnover is going to be lower than if I'm a limited company.
Well, not necessarily. Like we do have, like, some people choose to be a limited company for, there's different tax benefits to, being a limited company, and, there's different, pension contributions and things like that people can get the benefit of. And some people just want the structure of a limited company as well. So like, no, I like, in terms of being a limited company, it's not necessarily the size of your invoices. Like we work with plenty of businesses that, they're say a limited company, say they could be like an engineer. They don't want to be a huge engineering firm hiring hundreds of people. They only want maybe themselves, and they might subcontract out a bit of work whenever they need to. But they actually kind of operate like as if they are a sole trader, but they are a limited company, and that's absolutely fine by us as well. So that's the minimum.
So just to go back to your non-invoices too small, but if I said €1,000, is that too small, or you will actually cover that? Oh, that's brilliant. So, and when you say that there is no lock-in contract, so for example, in my example of I am a new business and I got a contract with SuperValue and they will pay me in 2 months, I could just talk to you about that invoice, because when I receive their money, I actually am be able to maintain. I don't need to do any of the other invoices.
Yeah, we can do spot. That's basically what we call spot invoice finance as well. So if you just wanted to do one particular invoice at a particular point in time, then that's absolutely fine as well. We can do it, for as long as you want with that one particular client, or else we can do it, just the one invoice. So again, like that, we're flexible, and that's exactly what we mean. That you can kind of choose it to suit whatever fits with your business. Not every business is the same, and we recognize that.
Okay, and you said you don't have the monthly fee. That by definitely that 800 is extortion in my eyes. But when you say you only send us an invoice and you pay only on that invoice, that it is in the last 20%. So at the end, when the invoice is being received, is when I will pay, not before.
Yeah. When the invoice is received, then your fee is basically taken out of that 20%, just based on that 80% example, and then the remaining is sent back to you to your business, say on the day that the money is received from your customer. So there's no delay.
Yeah. So one question. So if I am in a contract with an institution and I don't really know how it works. So for example, I put all my invoices because they say that I need to put all my invoices in that. However, if I get a new customer that is not in the invoices, can I trade that invoice with you, or does it need to go, even though when I did the contract with them, that customer didn't exist, I have to submit them to them?
I've never come across that, I have to say, so I couldn't answer that straight out and be honest about it. I would imagine that, with your existing, just say if it was one of the main pillar banks, that they would have a contract with you to say that, your debtors will be done with us, but that's just not a complete guess.
Try to be super complicated.
You're supposed to keep it easy.
Yes. So which kind of credit checks do you run?
Just the normal, like we do our due diligence on both say our client that we're working with, and we do our credit checks on that particular company, and then obviously on the debtor, that client will be basically raising the invoices too, because at the end of the day, it's that debtor that will be paying. So yeah, we do we just do our normal due diligence on both companies.
So yeah, okay. So you review myself and my customer to make sure that the two of us
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Can I ask how much does it cost when you say their fee? How much is?
Yeah. So it does vary depending on the type of industry that you're in, the type of industry that your customer is in, and if there's any like different things like like it's construction. Generally we kind of say like, oh, okay, that's generally just tends to be a riskier business just in general in the scheme of things, whereas if it was like a pharmaceutical company or something like that with a good credit score, etc., that would probably be on the lower end of it. But our rates vary between kind of 3% to 6%, and that's on the invoice value.
What it is the normal in the other institutions?
I know that their fees are structured a little bit different in that they could charge a percentage. So just it could be like a 4% fee on the invoice, and then they could charge a minimum monthly fee as well. And I just know from speaking to other clients that have come across to us, they at the start they're always asking, but what is the fee when you transfer the funds, like what's that transfer fee? And I'm saying no, it's just the invoice, it's just the percentage of the invoice. I feel like I always have to keep reiterating that it's just the percentage of the invoice, because they come back and ask me what's this fee and what's that fee, the fee when the money lands and the fee when you send the residual back to us. So I think there are a lot of like little fees then that are adding up to them as well. So I know our rates are very competitive.
And that sounds very simple also to understand.
Well, yeah, it's easy for us and it's easy for them. So I'm all for that.
So I will ask Hilary, Annabelle, or Ireland, do you have any questions so far on the process or the requirements?
No questions here. Great talk. I'm not a limited company though, so but I would definitely bear it in mind for even some of my clients that I work with that would be bigger than myself. It's just good to know. So I definitely bear it in mind if I hear anyone kind of speaking about, having difficulties in that area. It's nice to know that there is a service like this, which I didn't know at all that this existed. So thanks for that.
And that's, one of the things I suppose when, we are speaking to we're speaking to businesses and they don't know that the facility does exist or suits them. And I always feel like, they're always very nostalgic about it. Oh, if only I had known, because, say 6 months ago, I got, I had a potential contract with somebody, but I say like a large company that, it's maybe a multinational or something like that. And they had to turn it down because the payment terms, the standard payment terms with them might be 60 days. And they would have said, oh, if only I had known about your facility, I could have actually looked into it and maybe taking that contract. So it is a bit hard when you kind of, when you hear that businesses, they don't realize what's kind of available to them, and they say no on the back of that, to growing their company. So it's an important one to consider as well.
Yeah, and a lot of people I work with, even other web design companies, again, they'd be bigger than myself and they'd have employees and everything, but it is quite common that they have maybe one really big ticket client and they don't necessarily need to cover everybody else. So that's actually quite good that you can just cover that one that kind of destroys them, or not destroys them, but causes a major issue if they're late.
And it's not I suppose what we would say to our clients as well is, when they're deciding which debtors suits them best to give to us, like we'd always say, make sure that you're sending in the consistent paying ones, not the ones that are going to be like John down the road who's going to take 6 months because he knows your granny, or that kind of thing. Like it's important that that just to it's all about the cash flow, and cash is king at the end of the day. It always has been. So we always say that to customers as well, just give us the consistent ones to keep everything ticking over.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. Paul, do you have a question?
I have. How are we?
Paul.
Hi, Patrice. How are you doing? Good
Good,
talk. Well done. Patrice, I have two questions for you. Obviously, you've mentioned there with the government schemes, they're now gone, and I suppose the challenges that are there for all SMEs, with inflation and with the energy threats. Are you seeing? Is there a bigger increased take up on this? It might sound like a very easy question to ask you, but are there more and more businesses now availing of this, Patrice?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I have to say we've seen and look, generally in the summer months, a lot of people say, summer months are quiet because people are on holidays, whereas we see the opposite. It's summer months are actually really busy. I think people, some of them are just generally this is their peak time. So it just kind of happens that, that particular industry that they're in just seems to get busy during the summer. So no, but we have actually seen a larger, the inquiries that are coming through from businesses. So we have actually seen a massive influx in it. And I do think it is because of, there is that, and I think in general, even in our own personal lives, we're all very uncertain as to what's down the road. Are we heading in for a recession? This economist said we are, this economist said we're not. It's in general, I think businesses, which is good, they're trying to prepare, they're trying to get ahead, which is definitely important, like for any business owner, like, not to stick their head in the sand and just see what happens,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we all have to be proactive, I suppose, and we've got to be thinking ahead. And is it predominantly, again, it depends on the industry, it depends on, I suppose, the businesses, Patrice, but is the uptake more on the entire book, or is it, just as you said there, is it just, as you mentioned, spot invoicing, or just particular, maybe just a couple of the debtor accounts, does it vary? Generally,
it's like we'd have a few that we do the full debtor book. But generally they will pick, say, maybe 1, 2 or 3, like small businesses, they generally will have kind of maybe 2 of the larger ones, maybe a third that they'll bring on in time, but generally it's and very occasionally, like we've actually had that spot invoice financing. It's generally always been that they will select the debtors that they want to do with us. And it works out well for them, so that's the important thing as well.
Like I suppose everybody's doing pretty well out of this, because obviously the customer, your client, at the end of the day is getting accelerated cash flow, right? You're obviously getting the business at those rates, which aren't they're not excessive rates. Is there a relationship issue there? Does the client on the other side, is there any breakdown on that side, or how's that managed, Patrice? Is that more?
I think it's very important to have open communication with everyone, and like we don't send automated emails. That's by choice, because I always like to have the personal approach with my clients, with even their customers. And there's always, I suppose I do value, like at the end of the day, our client has a business. They have a business to run. We're in the background. But, we obviously need approvals or confirmations, whatever needs to come through, but it's always very amicable. And we are always very conscious of that relationship with our client and their customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's always a case of, you'll CC in your client, or, you'll always check with them beforehand. Is it okay if I contact, John or Mary today or whatever? So, there is open communication there all the time. And we do have very good relationship with both parties.
Perfect. Thank you. Well done again. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Paul. So I have 2 more questions, Patrice.
Okay.
The first one is, with your accountant hat on, which tip would you give to reduce cash flow problems? Or
So I would say to any business owners, use whatever tools you can that are available to you. And by that, have a good cash flow forecast. And it doesn't need to be, a fancy dancy thing with loads of different formulas and that'll confuse the hell out of you. Put in, have your cash in, your cash out, forecast for the rest of the month, then, 3 months, then 6 months, then 12 months. As a business owner, your business better than anybody else, and something as simple as that. You don't need to be an accountant, or you don't even need to, go to your accountant. That's a simple exercise that I would say to any business owner. You need to be able to forecast. You need to know where you're going to have your peaks and your troughs. And if you're going through a trough time, then, speak to somebody about getting a facility in place. Don't wait until you're in it and, you're panicking because you're in that situation. Knowledge is power at the end of the day. And if you can best use the tools that are available to you, like a simple Excel spreadsheet, it'll work wonders, and it'll give you the information that you need to make good decisions then for your business. So it's all about how you actually, prepare for that. So I definitely think, your business, do your research. And I suppose the other thing, and it's a general thing as well, but, from a cash flow perspective, I would say to any business, always go through your overheads, dissect your overheads. See, what are you paying for? Is it value add? Do you need it? Question that. Are you getting good value for money for it? If it's something like a subscription that's just kind of been taken away in the background, that's eating into your eating into your cash. Question it, do I actually need this in place? And more often than not, maybe you don't. So yeah, I would just say, your business better than anybody. So, just prepare and review, and you can never look at things enough in my opinion anyway, to try and figure out what's best for your business.
Perfect. So the last question, it is more a personal one, and we added this one as a new question for our collaboration series, because we're always reading a lot of books, business books, self-development and so on. So question for you, do you have any business book that you would recommend?
Do you know what? Books, I used to be so good with books, right? But now all I seem to read is Shaun the Sheep or something, but the nighttime books. But I actually do find podcasts, if I can say that, instead of a book. I do find that a good alternative. I still feel like I'm getting, some sort of the Irish Times podcast, or another one that I always listen to is that Great Business Show with Conal O'Moran. I actually really enjoy listening, because there's always different businesses that you've never necessarily heard of before, and then you're saying, oh, that's interesting, I'll have a listen to that. And he's quite entertaining, I think, anyway, but I enjoy his sense of humor. So yeah, podcasts, and I think they're good. You can have them, if you're doing that mundane task that you don't particularly enjoy doing, and having a podcast or something like that on in the background, it can just kind of break it up a little bit. Or you can be out for a walk listening to that, so you're using your time valuably as well.
That's perfect. Yeah, we obviously that we love that Great Business Show. We met you there. And Andrew managed
I heard Andrew there last week on it. Yeah, it's very good,
yes.
Andrew.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Appreciate it.
So does anyone else have any other question? Paul, Hilary, or Annabelle? No? Anything that you would like to address? Sorry?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, Susanna.
Hi, Annabelle.
Thank you so much, Patrice, for this wonderful sharing this afternoon. I just have one question for you. I'll be more from the accountant's perspective because I'm a small business. I only started last year, and I have this issue, like I pay my accountants to file my VAT every 2 months. And I realized that at the end, I am paying them more than even what I make because I don't have a big client base yet. Mm-hmm. I'm registered as a limited company. In your opinion, would I do the VAT, or will I file in the VAT myself and they only do the annual returns? Or will I simply deregister for VAT? What would be your suggestion in this case?
Well, I definitely wouldn't be able to comment on the deregistering for VAT without knowing that bit more about your business and where you want to take your business. You know, there's obviously certain criteria, you know, for all that and to be registered for it. But I would say in terms of doing your own VAT returns, look, in my opinion, doing VAT returns, they're not necessarily a difficult task to do. But then again, that's just speaking from my personal experience, you know, but look, I would say have a chat maybe with your accountant, you know, and see if you can come to some sort of an arrangement maybe with them. And it depends on your, you know, how confident you are in terms of your own, you know, bookkeeping, we'll say, side of things, that maybe it is something that you would like to do yourself. Or, you know, there are courses out there as well that, you know, for you to feel more confident in what you're doing, because at the end of the day, you don't want to do a VAT return, you know, do it incorrectly and then maybe get into, you know, a bit of bother with the revenue. You know, nobody wants that hassle. So just, yeah, it's very difficult for me to comment on that without actually knowing a whole lot as well. But I would definitely say go back to your accountant, have a chat with them, and see if there's something some sort of an arrangement that you guys can come to.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Annabelle.
Thank you, Annabelle. So the objective of today was to discuss how you can take control of your cash flow. So I hope that with that, we give you some answers. Patrice, thank you very much for your help and for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, where will they do that?
Yeah, so they can always just send me an email at patrice.butler@fifocapital.ie. Or they can give me a call 087 131 2186. My details are on fifocapital.ie on the website anyway. So if they want to get those details there as well, they can.